meeting. Oh, do you think they need a microphone for me? Come on. Okay, something happened for a second. I'm not moving computers again. Never, because I always have a loud voice. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm sorry that I'm not better prepared. I thought I had it right in front of me. So I think I have it right behind me. Here she be. Glasses. We are set to go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to call the January 10th, 2024 City Council meeting to order. And the Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be given by Council Member Raymond Gregory.
And please stand if you're able and place your hand over your heart.
At the end of the salute, stay still.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gutierrez has the invocation.
Father, thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. As we begin this new year, I would like to thank you for all the wonderful things that happened to us last year. I would also like to ask you for strength for those that experience some difficult challenges. And I would like to ask you for peace for those who are enduring or facing war and persecution. I also would like to ask you for wisdom, patience, and understanding for this council as we begin our council meetings this year. Allow us to come together as one for the betterment of our city and our residents. God, it is in your gracious name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you all again for being here, and you may notice that our mayor is not joining us. He's a bit under the weather, but not so far that he didn't say, be sure and say Happy New Year to everyone. So now you've had it from this horse's mouth. City Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Lamb? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Gregory?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross?
I'm here.
And Mayor Carnevale, who is absent.
And are there any changes to the agenda, please?
Mayor, the only change would be the item from the study session that we didn't get to on the Risk Management Fund. We'll place that at the end of the agenda, and that will become item 6E.
Thank you very much. And City Clerk, will you please read the statement of participation to our fine group of people?
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the City Clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the City Clerk for distribution. And Mayor, we did receive some requests to speak forms. Our first speaker is Paula. Please. Could you state your name, your full name for the record, please?
Can you pull this closer to your mouth? Oh, that's better.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name's Paula Wiedekind. I live on Olancha in Cathedral City, and I've had an ongoing problem since 2016 because of Ali Menace and his sidekick, Sean Nato. Between the two of them, they allowed their friend, my neighbor, to put a driveway alongside of my house. It's 70 feet long. It's used as a truck stop. Aside from my bedroom, I have this big truck parked just a few feet from my bedroom. I can't sleep because they started up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, because of this driveway and my contesting this driveway ever since it went in, these people next door will not give me peace. They keep trying to expand the driveway. They've destroyed my front yard. He now got a 15-foot high floodlight on some young palm trees that he's been trying to kill ever since the driveway went in. He's dug them up, he's cut off all the branches, anyway, it's a whole long story, which is too long for right now. But my problem is this driveway. I am asking that it be removed. These people have ample room to put the driveway alongside of their own house. It is their second driveway. They have a driveway in front of their garage like everyone else is. They live on the cross street. They're not even living right beside me. So this driveway has no business being there. I need it moved, or at least the gate sealed, so that they cannot keep parking this truck beside my bedroom. This is about as short as I can make it, and I'm sorry, but I cannot get code compliance to do anything. When Sandra Molina first took over after Alan Manis was fired and Sandra took over, she looked like she was going to do something, and gradually she would not respond. To this day, she will not respond to me. The last thing I got from her is, it's their driveway, they can do whatever they want. The problem is the driveway can't be there. Okay, I appreciate any help that I can get. I need some peace. And it doesn't look like I'm going to have any peace unless I can move. So kindly help. And I know I was here a year ago and asked for help. Nothing happened.
Thank you,
Okay?
Paula.
Thank you so much for your help.
The next speaker is Alan Carvalho.
Good evening again. My name is Alan Carvalho, Cathedral City. We all hated to see Chris Parman go, but Ryan is amazing. Good job, Ryan. That's not an easy job. I was very thrilled to find out that Christine was on board, because it's great. Bilingual, a woman from Cathedral City, charisma, but the heartbreak came from when I found out she wasn't here anymore. And that really saddened me, because quality people represent our city. With two people doing what Chris was doing, respectfully, Snowfest does not need a third party. Snowfest does not need to spend $15,000 for that event to a private person who has alienated the community over and over again. I've witnessed it. So I'm saying, please, let's not waste our money. We got two people that can do a phenomenal job. We don't need somebody coming in that's a third party that insults the employees that work here, and maybe that was one of the reasons that Christine's no longer here. I'm asking for public records to find out the truth, because I just don't like the way this is going. And I really care about the city. I've been here for 10 years, served on the public arts. My husband was a council member for 4 years. We've come to every meeting when he was involved. And I just want you to know that we have to speak out when there's an injustice. When a member of this council tells staff, you cannot let go of Joanne, she can never be fired. I'm sorry, but that's corruption. I worked for the city doing $200,000 worth of videos, never got paid a dime, never wanted to get paid. That's what volunteerism does. That's what a desire to serve our community does. You don't get a lot of pay. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you want to serve the community. But a person that's getting $15,000 for a one-day event, we can do better. We should learn from the mistakes that we've made here. And please, the more we know, the better we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And Kristen, I'm just going to mention that we're not getting,
I apologize, Mayor Pro Tem, I forgot to start it on that one.
okay, will you just like bang me over the head with the hammer when it's 3 minutes or
Absolutely.
something like that? All right, thank
The
you.
next speaker is Kathleen Mueller.
Good
Hey,
evening,
Kathleen.
Council. I'm here tonight to talk about the trash can problem in our neighborhoods. That is, trash cans being stored visible to the public. And I'll get right at it. You have in your hands a report from code enforcement that is seriously flawed and underreports how many trash cans are improperly stored. It states that there are 0 garbage cans visible on Durango, 0 visible on Tortuga, 0 on Bella Vista, and a very low 6 or fewer on Resueno. I walk these streets and see at least 40 bins every day on Resueno. Again, this report is majorly flawed. I ask that you please do not follow the recommendations of the Code Department to water down our codes and allow the bins to be stored in the front of properties as long as they are adjacent to the homes. You can see from the pictures Code submitted that this is not the look we want for our city. Let's tackle this problem like you've tackled many before it. Let's update our code enforcement software that works so well for other cities and keep our city beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller.
Our next speaker is Jens Mueller.
Mr. Mueller,
She did amazing.
she did well.
My name is Jens Mueller, Cathedral City, 34 years resident, and I am passionate about our city's look, as I'm sure you all are, your constituents are. We want a beautiful city, and trash cans that are left out in front of homes is not beautiful. The report that you got from the code enforcement is a lie, flat out lie. I would challenge any council member to come with me on any day and drive any street in this city, not just my neighborhood of Resueno and Panorama Park, any part of this city, and you will see more trash cans than you can believe. So I would take that report and I would toss it, and I would fire the man that wrote that report, quite frankly, because it's an outright lie, and us taxpayers paid for it. So you have the 5 councilmen you represent for, Mark's probably watching at home, you represent the constituents, the homeowners, the taxpayers that pay code enforcement. Charlie, I know you can't answer me, but I think it's $1.5 million to enforce the code, to help our city be beautiful. All we're asking is that they write tickets to these people that have their trash cans visible. So don't, like my wife said, please do not consider this report. Drive the neighborhood yourself, walk the neighborhood, you'll see the trash cans. They are not to be there. They're supposed to be behind a gate. And most of the violators have gates. So all we're asking is that code enforce the ordinance that you now have on the books. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Brad Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Hi, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage. Sorry, I don't talk to very many people. My voice is kind of off. I was going to beat up on the mosquito vector statistic, but I don't have the memos or the notes that I taken, so I want to apologize for that. And I just overheard the conversation, or just like you have, about the garbage cans. I know in Rancho Mirage, and if you're in contracts right now with Vertec, they will actually go and put the garbage can behind the fence for people. So that's something you could probably look at as contract if that's a big issue. A lot of people don't want citations, I'm sure, but a lot of people are lazy too. So that's all I have. Sorry to waste your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
I do not have any other requests to speak, but if you're a member of the audience and you'd like to speak on general public comments, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. So next we have the council reports. And may we start with Councilmember Lamb?
I first wanted to start off, I am wearing this pin, and this is a handcrafted item from children in Uganda. And I happened to attend, I saw it in the Desert Sun, and it was a African children's choir, and they performed at Northgate Community Church right here in Cathedral City, and it was a holiday performance, and so my husband and I attended. They were amazing, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Northgate Community Church for bringing this group to us, and it was pretty much standing room only, and many of the members of that particular faith group, they were host families for this group. And those children live in this little small town in Uganda and get an opportunity to come to the United States and travel for 4 months to expand their horizons and their view of the world. And their sponsors were children who participated as young ones in this group and now are serving their community. So I couldn't wait to wear it tonight and tell you all about it, because Cathedral City hosts so many fabulous things. It's a wonderful community. Today I was invited by Dr. Pamela Cole. She is a 6th grade teacher and AVID. AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. She is an AVID coordinator at Nellie Kaufman Middle School. And she and I met at the Desart, their theater performance, their launch party, about 4 weeks ago, and she invited me to speak to them about my path in public service, and so it was a great opportunity. And we had talked about it earlier about having a program where 4th graders would come to the Civic Center and City Hall, but this was a great opportunity for me because it was a first outreach, and these were all 6th graders. So it was a great afternoon. I am now chairperson of the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy. Jim Karpiak is the executive director, and he has said that he is retiring as of June. So now we're heading up the committee to find a replacement for him. So that'll be an interesting process. I just wanted to give a shout out again to John Carell and the fabulous engineering and public works staff, because they did a tremendous job on Dade Palm and all the road improvements. And here was a great article from the Desert Sun. It said, "Our Valley Road construction, it's long overdue," but it says, "I'm sure you've noticed all the road construction going on in every city in the Coachella Valley, and I know it's an inconvenience." This is from Larry Justad, Cathedral City, and he talked about the great things that we're doing here. So I always commend our Cathedral City residents who take the time to write an article for the Desert Sun and give a shout out to us doing great things. This is the film festival week, and my husband and I have had an opportunity to go to several performances at several shows at the Mary Pickford, and it is thriving. The Mary Pickford is just a wonderful venue, and it's certainly that collaboration with the Palm Springs Film Festival is really beneficial to our city. We have 5 new employees, and I wrote their names down, and it was on a post note, and it flipped off in the parking garage, so I don't have the names in front of me, but we have 5 new paramedics and ambulance drivers, so I'll be looking forward to their pinning ceremonies as we move forward. And I wanted to give a shout out to Deanna Pressgrove, because if you haven't been to the Shred It event, you need to go to the Shred It event. And if you don't have a New Year's resolution in mind, or you've given up on them, start with just purging your house of papers, because it was a great exercise for me. I was drinking Diet Coke and listening to music and going through 2005 tax returns. So I threw them all in a bucket and drove down there. And Deanna, there definitely are some regulars, because she was chatting with everybody at their grandkids and hope your holiday was happy. And it's an easy to do. You just drive your car up, you open your trunk, they take the box, throw it in, they can give you the box back if you want it. Otherwise, they take it all away and you just drive off. So there were quite a few people there. They usually have the monthly. It's not this month in February because we have Taste of Jalisco. So the next one is Saturday, March 2nd from 8 to 9. Take advantage of it. Start your year off with a bang. Don't bother losing those 5 pounds. Get rid of the paperwork. So forget it. And the Congressman Reese had a wonderful meeting with us and Mayor Carnevale right before New Year's, and with our city manager and city staff and assistant city manager about the update on Tropical Storm Hillary and how we're moving forward with that whole process. So, and I wanted to give a shout out to Tom Swan Hernandez from ANVETS. He made another donation to our police department with little Care Bears, and that is their advocacy and volunteerism. And if the police are involved in an incident where young children are involved, they have a Care Bear there for emotional support. So that finishes my report, but it was a great holiday, and wish you all a very happy New Year and all good things in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Gregory?
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. So happy New Year's to everyone. As has already been said, this is our first meeting of the new year. I know it's going to be a great and productive new year, and look forward to continuing to work with this council and this great staff and all of you to make the city as best as it could be. It's been a long time since we've met, so hopefully everyone had a great holidays, and we're back again. During that time, of course, we got to meet with a number of constituents, some staff. Councilmember Gutierrez and I also had a meeting with city management and Councilmember Raul Ruiz. We tried to focus a little bit on some other infrastructure projects, since you guys had covered extensively the storm damage. That was just one of many meetings. So it's been a productive time even after the holidays. I think we've kind of hit 2024, hit the ground running. So I also did have attended and have a few more on the calendar, a number of events related to the Palm Springs International Film Festival, including the gala, the opening night, and some films mostly here at the Mary Pickford, because it is the best theater. I know it has been well attended at things that I've been to, and I see the parking lots out here around City Hall are very full, which tells me that they're hopefully in the films, and also hopefully in some of our restaurants and other businesses around the area, and learning for themselves what a great place downtown Cathedral City is. Earlier today, I did represent the city on the Riverside County Transportation Commission, which means I went down to Riverside early in the morning this morning. It was a pretty routine meeting, and they did announce, which I was very happy to hear, that the Coachella Valley Rail has been selected and is now an official part of the Federal Corridor ID program, which doesn't mean a lot by name to me and may not to you, and apparently doesn't come with a lot of money. It comes with some money that goes to the state about verifying and identifying what needs that project would meet, but it is another step forward in that project. As many of you know, that was a project that was really started by our late Mayor Greg Pettis, and so it's something that's dear to us, and that I continue to be one of the people that jabs and pokes and makes sure that it moves along as quickly as possible, and it is continuing to move. Of course, that doesn't mean they're going to be doing construction anytime soon. There's still a long ways to go, but it is moved forward probably as best that it could have at this point. So I know, looking down on as Greg Pettis is happy that at least it continues to thrive. I did want to mention, looking forward, that next Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so the City Hall will be closed. Hopefully it's a day that you can remember and celebrate our civil rights, and I know some people try to do a volunteer project, and some people volunteer every day, so if you get the opportunity, please do so. And then our next meeting will be on January 24th, so we'll meet again before our goal setting, but I did want everybody to mark their calendar that's interested. We will be having our annual goal setting and strategic planning meeting on Saturday, January 27th, and that's pretty much all day. It'll be held in Cathedral City at the Doubletree, so make sure you mark your calendar. And with that, I have concluded my comments. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gregory. Councilman Gutierrez?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. During Snowfest, Aphrodite and I got the opportunity to dress up as Santa. Had to put on a couple of pounds, but that outfit did work. Now, it was an incredible experience. Not only kids, but also adults wanted to take pictures with me, and it was just a great experience. Now, one little girl did stand out. They were all great and cute and everything, but one little girl did stand out. She came out to me and she sat next to me, and I asked her what she wanted from Santa Claus this Christmas. She looked at me with a sad face, and she said, "All I want for Christmas is for my parents to stop fighting." It was so sad that it almost made me teary, because it was pretty sad. The father was standing right next to it. He did not could not believe what her little daughter just said. I hope he actually granted her wish and they stopped fighting in front of her. Kids do see what happens in a household, and sadly enough, this impacts their lives in the future. So I hope parents actually do a better job when they have differences to take care of it away from the kids. Now, as mentioned earlier, I also met with Congressman Raul Ruiz, as was mentioned. It was a very productive meeting. I also attended the first annual Santa and Seniors Christmas Breakfast, which was served by a police department and also a fire department. They cooked a delicious breakfast, and it was well attended. I got to talk to quite a few residents from Cathedral City, introduce myself, and run into quite a few people that I knew. So I can't wait for the following year to go out there and actually be hungry and enjoy all that delicious food. Later that week, I also met with the executive director of CVAG, which is Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Tom Kirk. It was a casual conversation, and we just talked about certain projects and infrastructure that our city needs. And I just told him to make sure that he keeps us in mind, that whenever there's opportunity to work with our city, to please do. And of course, the entire city council here is working hard and very different, or quite a few issues and infrastructure. We're working hard to make sure that Varner gets actually widened all the way from Palm Drive to Day Palm. And we also have other projects that we're trying to push and hopefully get done. And he mentioned that he works extremely well with our city, including our city engineer, John Corella here. So it's very encouraging to talk to him on a casual basis and put in a couple of words in, hopefully, that will bring better things to our city. I also had my regular meeting with our city manager and our assistant city manager to go over tonight's agenda. And finally, I want to say a couple words about our volunteers and how important it is for our city to allow volunteers, and how important it is for volunteers to volunteer, not just in our city, but for their own self, for their own self as a person. One person in particular volunteered for our city for over a decade, worked as a volunteer just as hard as employees do. He clocked in over 10,000 hours, which is about 10 years worth of volunteering with our city for our police department. Now, of course, he worked so hard, saving our city thousands and thousands of dollars. This volunteer did not want to call himself volunteer. He was so proud of the work he did. He didn't want to call it work. For him, it was a passion. He would come in and just love what he did. He wanted to just help the residents of Cathedral City. Even though he did not live in the city of Cathedral City, he loved doing everything for our city. And his biggest passion and his biggest contribution to our city was to work on the flock cameras for our city, which has actually solved a lot of crimes throughout our city. And we'll hear about it a little bit later in our regular meeting. But he loved to work with our police department, and also he was very influential in getting our police officers to purchase and to start wearing the body-worn cameras that our police officers currently use. So he loved to work with everybody, but especially he loved to work with our detective bureau. While working as a volunteer, he treated everyone with respect and dignity. Like I mentioned in the past, he personally knew, we called him English Dave. He was from England, and he personally knew the Queen and King of England, and also knows the current king. And he also knew Princess Diane and the kids. This individual was so well liked, and also such an extremely gentle man, and just a kind soul. Sadly, last week he passed. And one of the things I want to say is that he loved, excuse me for a quick second. He loved our city, he loved our police department, he loved everyone that he worked for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. So I also started off at the Snowfest for my comments, and I was a bit under the weather, but you know, sometimes you just put that behind you and you soldier forward. And so I thought, well, in my high heels, I'd walk through the grass up into where the snow was because, you know, I wanted to see if everybody was having a really great time. And I noticed this, I'm going to say 2.5-year-old who was just sort of sitting there by himself and wasn't really part of anything. And I said to him, you want to build a snowball with me? And so carefully, I'd do a little and then he'd do a little and it was just so rewarding. And as I walked away, he nailed me in the fanny with it. So no good deed goes unpunished, right? I rented a house in Oregon, where I'm originally from, and my entire family, now I don't have a lot, I have 2 sisters, no aunts and uncles, you know, no parents. So my entire family was there, and if you knew my robust, better than thou family, who I'm one of, believe me, there was nary a sour word for 5 days. And I kind of questioned if they were really even my family anymore, but they say they are, so I'm just going to take their word for it. It was a great time, and I look forward to doing something like that again in the future. I too am amazed by the Date Palm Road. And one of the things that I couldn't figure out, and I apologize in advance to my husband because I often doubt his wisdom. And I said, I don't understand. There's asphalt and then there's concrete. And I don't remember the road being like that before. And he said, no, the reason they do that is because there's a lot of wear and tears. You put your brakes on and you come to a stop at a red light and you can over the years kind of start to buckle the asphalt. And so this is something they do. So, being the gracious wife I am, I got on the phone and called Armando. And I said, Armando, explain to me what that concrete is. And it was exactly what Bob had said. I got off the phone and I said, Bob, you're wrong. And that was the end of that. He didn't ask me any further. Just, you're wrong. It wasn't that at all. So anyway, I have had many great things happening, and many great things are happening right here in our city. And I'd like to tell you about some of them. The first is just a few days from now. It's our Coachella Valley Bully Fest on the 13th. Frenchies, English Bulldogs, every kind of bully you can imagine is going to be in our amphitheater, which I'm sure you know, but I'm going to tell you anyway, is on the corner of Cathedral Canyon and Lelo Guerrero. So this annual event is a sight to see, and it allows you to bring your dog for 10 extra bucks. General admission is 20 and kids under 12 are free. There'll be contests and trophies and just all kinds. If you love, I mean, who doesn't love a French Bulldog? That's all I'm saying. Next up is January 20th from 8 to 2 is where our fire department, along with the Red Cross, will be working on the Sound the Alarm program at Royal Palms Mobile Home Park, which is, you know, it's just, I'm trying to get my bearings. It's just south of Dinah Shore on Date Palm. It's not too far. It's just a little bit past the shopping center there, the Food for Less shopping center. It's technically 34851, but that's where it is. Bob and I, along with 100 volunteers, will be installing smoke detectors, giving emergency preparedness information, and having a great time together in this at-risk community where we could really use your help for a few hours. So if it's not you, go knock on your neighbor's door, see if you can find somebody. How they're going to do this is they're going to have 3 people in teams. The first person tells you about what they're going to be doing and a little bit about emergency preparedness. The second person will install the smoke alarm, and the third person will be taking some information that they need to turn back in. So little teams, super easy. You have to fill out a form. It took me 2 minutes. You have to be an adult, and if you go to the Discover Cathedral City or this incredibly easy URL, which is tinyurl.com/Red Cross Public Events. I hope to see you there. I think we're going to have a great time. Then we will celebrate the return of our very well-received 3rd season of yoga, starting this month on the 23rd. It's also in our amphitheater, and it's from 8:30 to 11, with gentle yoga at 8:30 and power yoga at 10. We're honored to have our same instructors, Patty and Nicole. No RSVP is required. Just show up with your yoga mat, your bottled water, and a hand towel. And there is a limited number of blocks and mats available on a first-come, first-served basis. It is brought to you by the Parks and Events Commission. And last but certainly not least is the return of the Perez Art District's Art Walk on the 4th Friday of each month from 4 to 7. There are signs to show you who's open and showing goods, but I know that there are at least 30 artists each Friday. Plan to see paintings, sculptures, photography, and mixed media, just to name a few of the talents of these artists. And when you're done, just hop across the bridge and have dinner in downtown, go see a movie, or take a nice walk around the amphitheater. We really look forward to seeing you at all of these events. They're all just phenomenal, and we're all lucky to be here in Cathedral City. And Bob, if you're listening, I'm sorry about the road thing. Thank you. I don't know why Bob's really intelligent, and I never think he has it right. It's like, oh, I don't think that's it, Bob. I don't think that's it. Okay, so next we have our consent agenda, and will you please, Christina, read the consent agenda items?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. Item 3A is to waive full reading of ordinances on the agenda. Item 3B is the minutes approval of December 13th, 2023. Item 3C is to receive and file payment of claims and demands for November 2023. Item 3D is the second reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cathedral City, adding Chapter 8.64 to Title 8 of the City of Cathedral City Municipal Code to create an expedited permitting process for electric vehicle charging station systems. Item 3E is to accept and approve the citywide repaving projects: East Palm Canyon Pavement Rehabilitation C08669, Duval Street Improvements C08665, San LJ Pavement Rehabilitation C08667, and Public Alley Reconstruction C08670 as final, and authorize the city manager to execute and the city engineer to file a notice of completion, and authorize the release of retention funds to Granite Construction Company upon expiration of the notice of completion. Item 3F is to adopt a resolution of intention to establish improvement area number 20, CFD number 2006-01. Item 3G is to approve a 5-year contract with Flock Safety to operate 21 automated license plate reader cameras for a total cost of $262,500. Item 3H is to approve a no-cost contract amendment to the professional services agreement with Avintech Consulting Engineers, Inc. for the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, Cycle 9A-12 Intersection Traffic Signal Upgrades Project C08752 to increase the term of the agreement for an additional 12 months. Item 3I is to ratify the amendments made to Resolution 2023-41, approving the designation of applicant's agent resolution for non-state agencies. Item 3J is to adopt a resolution certifying the public improvements constructed within track number 37647-1, track number 37647-2, and track number 37647 by HPH Home Builders 2000 LP. Item 3K is to adopt a resolution certifying the public improvements constructed within portions of track number 28639-1 and track number 32858 by HPH Home Builders 2000 LP. And that concludes the consent agenda. And Mayor Pro Tem, we do have one request to speak on one of these items.
Thank you.
And the request to speak is for item 3G, Mr. Brad Anderson.
Hello, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage. This is concerning the Flock camera system. I understand that you want to enter a 5-year contract. Again, I have no authority to tell you not to do that. I think I'm against this type of surveillance. I understand there are success stories to this, but there also are other stories where the system has been abused or incapable of doing what it's intended to do. The likelihood of the system not working long-term or being compromised by entities other than the government entities are likely, and it will happen, or I suspect it will happen. But my issue is, I guess, with the agenda item as worded. You're going to enter into a 5-year contract because the price is going to go up for the leased equipment, or I guess it's like $3,000 or $2,500 per unit, and it's going to go up to $3,000 if you don't enter into a 5-year contract with some other caveats, I guess. I think that locks the city in. I know it locks the city in to actually shopping to other networks or other providers of that service too. And I think it's a disadvantage, or it's not satisfying your residents financially for that tracking or surveillance tool. And I guess that's all I have. I think there's better aspects to do it. It's a costly matter. I'm kind of going off. I'm just against the system altogether. I live in the city of Matamoros, where it's almost on every street in that city, every shopping center. I actually do not shop in my city anymore because of the likelihood of being tracked, and that's sad. So it's a chilling effect that these cameras could have or will have, especially on tourism, if people are actually coming here for whatever the Planned Parenthood was brought up, issues like that. This is a tracking device, and it will chill that, I think, in the long term, once people know about it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm going to submit written comments too, for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not receive any other requests to speak, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to speak on any items on the consent agenda, please raise your hand. I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So do we have any comments from council? Are we ready for a motion?
We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Motion carries all ayes.
Thank you very much. So our first legislative action is SB 1383 update and Find Food Bank Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Deanna Presgrove, our Public Works Manager, is going to present this item. This is continuing follow-up to SB 1383. She'll be doing two things: giving you an update on where we stand on implementing the mandates we received from the state on that, and also recommending approval of an MOU with Find Food Bank to implement the edible food recovery program in the Tier 2. Deanna.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. I am Deanna Presgrove, your Environmental Conservation Manager tonight. And like Charlie said, I am going to update you on our SB 1383 compliance and a proposed MOU with Find Food Bank. Both Burtec and Find Bank have representatives in the audience, so after I'm done with my presentation, if you have any questions I cannot answer, they are here to help. So as a reminder, I do this spiel every time we talk about SB 1383. This is an aggressive legislation item established in 2016 that focuses on organic waste. And organic waste is our food waste, it's our yard trimmings, it's paper, it's cardboard, and the goal of SB 1383 is to pull it out of the landfill and have it recycled, diverted, or composted. The schedule, the key implementation dates, we're now at January 1st, 2024, and this is when the regulations take effect. Enforcement takes effect. The regulations took effect back in January 2022, so now enforcement. So if we're out of compliance, that means CalRecycle could enforce it on us. It also means that if we have businesses that are not in compliance, it's now our responsibility to move towards enforcement. With the goal of California's goal of January 2025, we need to do a 75% reduction in organics disposal and a 20% increase in edible food recovery. And those numbers are based off California. While SB 1383 puts a lot of the weight on Burtec, it is ultimately Cathedral City's responsibility. We have to keep the records. We are accountable for SB 1383. If we fail, it is up to $10,000 per day fine until we're brought into compliance. And just like AB 939, that money does not come out of our environmental fund, that would come out of our general fund. But we're not ever going to have to worry about that. So the CalRecycle for SB 1383 set up 5 areas that we need to focus on, which is what I'm going to provide you an update on tonight. Organic collections for residents multifamily, establish edible food, conduct education and outreach, procure recyclables and recovered organic products, and monitor compliance and conduct enforcement. So the first one let's touch on is our recycling program. So as we've talked about in the past, you have seen your new carts. So we have 15,000 residential customers that have now received blue carts. They are now using their gray carts for trash disposal. We have kitchen pails have been distributed. We have education that you can now bag your food and put it in your green waste cart for disposal. At Cathedral City, we offer bags for the kitchen pails. To date, we have distributed 6,200 bags to the Cathedral City residents, and we offer it on the website. And in the mailer, you can call me and I'll mail you the bags, or you can come pick them up. We also have kitchen pails. We're working with some of our gated communities like Desert Princess, where we're going to have some of the kitchen pails. They're going to distribute them with the bags to help us get, for those customers that we may have missed, to make sure that they get, or if they've lost their kitchen pail, to get another one. Another requirement for residential component of SB 1383 is that there has to be a label on your cart explaining what can go in the cart. This is on all new carts, so we do not have to go and put stamps on all of our old ones. So as your carts get old or you get new ones, we will then have Burtech will put a hot stamp. It's not a sticker, it's a hot stamp on your new cart with the label that explains what can go in there. But that's all new carts. So for a while, for a few years, you're going to see some carts without labels, and you'll see the newer carts that have labels. Some of the issues that we've run into is, as we've done the rollout, we have run across a few accounts that have an excess maroon carts. They've had a lot of trash carts that they've been using over the years and maybe not have been paying for them. So what we've done through this process is Burtech is issuing swap out tickets. So they're identifying those locations, they're taking those maroon carts, they're bringing a gray bin, and then if those residents would like to increase their services, they can contact Burtech directly, get an additional gray cart for trash, and be charged accordingly. The curbside recycling has increased 19% since rollout, and our organics collection has also increased 18%. This is just based off this last year. Commercial, we have 455 businesses. Out of the 455 businesses, 7 are not in compliance. 6 are not open yet, so once they're open, they'll be in compliance. We do have 1 holdout that is refusing to comply with SB 1383. So the next step then is Burtech has done their due diligence, has reached out to them a number of times. They've kept records of who they've talked to, what the issue is. So now it will be my turn to go talk to the property owner and discuss what the issue is and explain that we do have an enforcement mechanism in place. So before we move to that, are you sure you want to do that? So I'm hoping that with my personality, we'll be able to resolve the issue with the 1. We have seen an increase of 24% in participation. One of the issues that we have with the multifamily that we've always had with AB 939 is with recycling is contamination. And this will be ongoing throughout. It's just some years it's going really well at one of our HOAs, and then the next year it just flops. So what we do is at a city level, as we go out and we do signage, and we work with the HOAs. So we do signage at the trash enclosures, we do brochures, we do maps, we answer questions, I go to the meetings, we talk about it, and that seems to resolve the issue. If we've got to move bins around, if we've got to put them in other locations, we work on it till we customize the program that works for that HOA. And that's the same thing we did with AB 939 throughout the years with recycling. So we'll do it the same with SB 1383, and we'll just keep on working with each community. The good part is that we've already established the relationship with these HOAs, so they know who to call, and we'll work it out and we'll figure it out. So we do the signage, and we just talked with Burtech today. We'll be going out starting next month. I've hired an analyst who's fabulous, and he is going to work with Burtech's. They've also have a new person as well, and they're going to go to each HOA. We're going to work on the signage, make sure it's in English and Spanish. We're going to number the trash enclosures, so we're going to try to resolve any issues and any ongoing issues maybe we've had in these multifamily communities. So we'll do that. And then as part of SB 1383, there's a huge amount of paperwork that is required, documentation. So Burtech submits the papers, we keep the implementation record, which is a requirement of SB 1383. Conduct conduct education and outreach to the community. This, again, is ongoing. The mailer that you receive twice a year, that is funded by the Environmental Conservation Department. And although the first couple of pages include all your special events and activities at the Senior Center, the last pages are what my focus are, which talk about the curbside program. So we'll keep doing those. We also updated the city's refuge and recycling guide. This is a 48-page English and Spanish guide that talks in more detail about every environmental program that we have: the home composting, sharps disposal, bottles and cans, shredding, the scrap gallery is in this guide. And we have not mailed this guide out to the residents in a few years, so we're going to do that separately. So you'll see your two mailers, but then you're also going to see the refuge and recycling guide be mailed out. And I'm anticipating I'll probably do that every 12 to 16 months for the next few years, just to really keep the message going, and they watch for it, and that they're constantly referencing when they have issues, and it includes bulky item as well. Monitor compliance and conduct enforcement. SB 1383 required us to amend our ordinance, which we did a few years ago, and that includes components to allow us to enforce. So if we do still have that one business just flat out refuses, we have a mechanism to take it to the next level. To date, we have not implemented any kind of citations. Procure recyclable and recovered organics products. The last time I was here, I asked to purchase a compost slinger. That is to procure the mulch. We were very successful. We've had a good experience with the mulch over this last reseeding. We placed it on all of our parks. We're still spreading it around the tamarisk trees in the Rio Vista. We've seen nothing but positive results. There was some apprehension about what the mulch, what would do to the turf. It's, from what we've seen, it's made it a little bit more lush. In some of our parks, like Panorama, where we have just these dry spots, that it just doesn't matter if it's more water, they just are either so old the soil just doesn't want to grow grass. We've seen a positive by putting the mulch down. It actually seems to have rejuvenated the area. So we're pretty excited about that. I am, at least. We've done 1,000 tons of mulch to date.
Wow.
Then procure recyclables. This is another one that I'll work with the finance department on. This is an SB 1383 requirement that the city has to purchase paper products that are certified in writing. We started this years ago where we moved to purchase products that have a recycled content to them, all of our paper products through Staples. So now what we have to do is just make sure that it's actually identified, and we have to prove it to CalRecycle that we did. So we'll work with Staples. Obviously, Staples is well aware of what's going on because they'll have to do this for all paper products across suppliers across California. So we'll make sure that they have the minimum percentage printed on it, and we'll also have to keep all the paperwork of purchasing it, how much we purchased, and we'll make sure that that's in our implementation record that CalRecycle has access to. And that program will be in place in the early 2000, starting now. And the last one, establish edible food recovery programs. And SB 1383 requires that we establish and monitor a food recovery program. And their goal is to strengthen relationships between commercial edible food organizations and recovery. So to make sure that that food that was going to the landfill that is edible can now go to organizations like Find. And they split, SB 1383 split it up in 2 tiers. There's a tier, there's a tier 1 donors, which we've talked about in the past. We have 7 of those. Those are our grocery stores, our food service providers, our whole food vendors. That's what's covered under tier 1 donors. And that program should have been in place this last year, which we did with a partnership with Find, and I'll talk about in a second. Tier 2 donors, this is what now we have to work on for starting in January 1st, 2024. These are our restaurants with facilities of 5,000 square feet or 250 seats more, hotels with an on-site food facility and 200 plus rooms, health facilities with an on-site food facility and 100 plus beds, large venues and events. To date, we currently have 32 tier 2 establishments that need to comply with SB 1383. And to successfully do this, you have to track and coordinate the system, you have to have contract management, data collection, the weights, and coordination and transportation of the food. So this is not going to be an easy task. It would be very difficult for city staff to tackle it in-house. So back in 2022, we brought you an MOU agreement with Find Food Bank to address just Tier 1 establishments. And that contract actually expired December 30th, 2022. And to date, Cathedral City Tier 1 establishments have recovered 34,000 pounds of edible food. So that's great. So Find Food Bank tonight has submitted an updated MOU that will now cover Tier 1 and Tier 2 establishments. They've got, you're all, I'm sure, very aware of Food Bank. They've been around since '83. They've got the expertise, the infrastructure to be able to implement this program and make sure that Cathedral City businesses are in compliance with SB 1383. So the agreement proposed tonight has a 3-year term expiring in 2026. So for Tier 1 establishments, for our 7, it would be $17,000 annually. For our Tier 2 establishments, it would be $40,000, not to exceed $40,000 annually, for a total of $57,325. And the total rate for the 3-year agreement for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 would be $171,975. During the last budget cycle, we did budget under the environmental fund funds to support SB 1383 programs. So we do have the funds available in the environmental fund to cover this. In addition to that, Cal Recycle also issued a grant based off of our population, awarded us $102,000 to support food recovery programs. So we would use those funds and apply it to this program as well. So tonight, staff is recommending that the city manager be authorized to execute the proposed MOU with Find Food Bank and allocate funding in an amount not to exceed $57,325 annually for a 3-year term from the city's environmental fund to help meet SB 1383 regulatory requirements and provide support to the Cathedral City Edible Food Recovery Program. If we were, during that 3-year term, if we were Tier 2 were to exceed the 32 establishments, if all of a sudden we just have a whole bunch more restaurants that open up or establishments that fall, we would come back for an amendment. If we drop below the 32, that we're only working with what is actually active, so it would be less than that. And that ends my presentation. Like I said, Find is here, Burtech is here, and I am also here for any questions.
Any questions? All right, I have a question. Just one.
Just one?
So first of all, I love the bucket. I didn't think I would.
You
know,
what?
the food
Oh, yeah.
bucket.
Yes.
And now we're just like anal about it. You know, everything goes in the bucket, right? How do you lose a pail? You said we have to replace a bunch of them because people lose their pails.
Do you know what I ran into? You know what I ran into? They were putting it on their green cart. They thought instead of bagging it, there was some
they put it on there?
miscommunication. They were actually putting it on the green cart, and then either it would disappeared or, yeah.
And then what'd they do next week?
Yeah, because I asked the same thing, like, did you not get it? No, I got it, but the driver took it. I'm like, how did he take it? And then I found out that they were putting it.
Just a weekly thing.
Yeah, I think one even put it actually in the cart.
Okay, well, good to know. That was my one and done.
Yeah, so
Thank you so
Burtech
much.
has sent me over about 100 of them. Our weekly event, the e-waste batteries, Sharps event, I tell people if you want to come by and pick it up, if you don't want to wait for it to be delivered, just come by and pick it up. And then I also offer the bags. Everybody seems to really love the bags. They're in the mailer, so once the mailer goes out, I get a lot of requests to mail them the bags.
And remember, Rita has 500,000 of those what do they call, booklets? 500,000. I think
Yes.
she's got one of those houses, just full of paper.
And we'll continue to educate, because that'll be ongoing. Education will be important to get that right.
Well, I certainly appreciate this. Do we have any questions or comments on this fine presentation?
Mayor Pro Tem, I did not receive any request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public that wished to speak on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none.
Are there any further comments from council? No, I can see you looking the other way.
Thank you, everyone, for coming from these organizations and for the work you've been doing for us.
Absolutely.
Can't see the boat. There it is.
And, well,
We have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Motion carries all ayes.
thank you so much. Bye. Thanks for coming, Claire. Okay, and you've done that. So the next one is the amendment to the master schedule of user and regulatory fees, street vending permit. And may we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. This is follow-up to discussions we've had a number of times recently regarding our street vendor permit program, and we discovered that we had sort of a disincentive to get the permits in that the cost of them exceeded the cost of paying the fine for not having it. So we're recommending a change in that. Andy Firestein, our Development Services Director, is here to present this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. I don't have a formal presentation for you this evening, but I do want to just lay out some of the parameters that are in the resolution attached to your packet. So as the City Manager has shared, this resolution, if it were adopted by City Council, would permanently reduce the fees for a street vendor permit. This fee schedule was originally adopted in 2021. It was intended to be cost recovery, to recover those fees that we as a city incur processing those permits. And currently, the fee for a street vendor permit is $201, and the renewal is $105. As a result of Senate Bill 946, cities are no longer able to criminally cite sidewalk vending offenses as misdemeanor or infraction offenses. Instead, these violations are subject only to administrative citations. At present, the administrative fine for vending without a permit is $250. However, also under SB 946, there is a request a vendor has access to for an ability to pay determination that can reduce that fine to 20% of that original amount. So as a result of that, really the fine would be $50. So as a result of that, really there is a disincentive for a vendor to obtain a permit lawfully through the city for street vending, instead just running the risk of getting that admin citation and fine and going through that ability to pay determination. Over the course of October and November 2023, staff went through an educational campaign working to really spread the message and trying to do what was necessary to make it easy for vendors to obtain a permit both through the city and through the county. And we continue to do that through every interaction we have with a street vendor in the city. We share with them what it takes to become lawful and to get permitted through the city. So it's our recommendation tonight, just knowing what we've discovered through SB 946, that there is a potential financial barrier to someone getting a permit through the city, that it's less costly for them just to get an admin site and to go through the ability to pay determination. It's our recommendation that council amend the fee schedule to permanently reduce the permit fee to $50. And with that, I'll close out my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have questions?
Just a quick comment. So thank you in your staff report for pointing out because that that this is the reason. One of the reasons for this is reduction is because it's a behavior that we wish to promote. We wish to promote these people to become licensed, and I think it's important because this council's made clear that our standard approach is that we do want to recover costs to the city for things that we are able to through this process. But there are certain things, this isn't the only one. Having a home alarm is another one that comes to mind that we don't necessarily want to recover the whole cost because it's a behavior we'd like to promote that's actually beneficial to the city and its residents. So thank you for pointing that out, and I certainly agree with it. And this is a behavior, getting licensed is a behavior we want to promote in this circumstance. So thank you.
Any questions? Thank you so much for your presentation and your fine work. Pardon me. Are there any members of the public that would wish to comment? I think we've dwindled down here.
I did not receive
Brad,
any
it's you.
requests. Any request to speak forms, but if you'd like to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none.
Great, thank you so much. So we have spoken, and are we ready for a motion? And there it is. God, you guys are so fast. Always the last one.
We have a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez, and motion carries all ayes.
Thank you so much. So the next topic that we have that we'd like a staff report on is the Tropical Storm Hillary equipment losses.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Kevin Biersack will present this item. We did lose 2 pieces of equipment in responding to the disaster, and they're insured, but we have to pay the deductible. So that's what Kevin's going to talk to you about tonight. And then on the next item, I'll be confirming that we will be submitting the deductible amounts as part of our submissions to FEMA. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff. Good evening. As Charlie said, we lost 2 pieces of equipment. Total-wise, with our submission to FEMA, we have 19 items, and these are 2 of those 19 items. So as you're aware, August 21st was the day, and August 22nd is when we sustained 2 vehicular equipment losses. One of which was, as Deanna wanted me to point out, is a brand new dump truck. I left off those adjectives. It was a brand new dump truck on Horizon Road. And we also lost a police patrol vehicle on Vistachino. It swept down through the water and was wrapped around a pole. Extensive damage beyond repair. Our insurance adjuster deemed both a total loss. So here are the statistics. The dump truck replacement, 81,000, almost 82,000, comprised of the vehicle and some upfitting, some equipment. Then the Ford Explorer replacement, it was a Ford Explorer, we're replacing it with a Chevrolet, but it's $80,000 and change. It's a vehicle cost of almost $55K, and the upfitting is significantly more on a sworn vehicle, and you see that cost. As Charlie said, we have a deductible. Something interesting to note here, our deductible is $50,000 with a sworn vehicle, and is $25,000 with a non-sworn. So because it was the same incident, we only have to pay 1 deductible. Of course, we have to pay the higher deductible. But if, for example, we had lost a vehicle on August 21st, and if we had had damage September 1st when the second storm came through in the eastern portion of the valley, it would have been 2 separate instances. So total-wise, it's $162K, that deductible. So the importance of coming to you all as our governing body is we need this approval because tomorrow Patrick Bumstead and our staff, he will actually produce 2 purchase orders. And those purchase orders will be sent to the insurance adjuster, and that's all they need in order for us to receive the $112,000. So let's talk about the $50,000 and how do we get that? And that's on this next slide. So the $50,000, as I said, we have identified to date in our estimate that we submitted back in December to FEMA after the declaration, 19 items. And 2 of those are these 2 vehicles. So FEMA in that submission, whether we submit one or in one submission or in 2 separate submissions, we will receive 75% of the deductible. So we will receive $37,500. Tied to that, Cal OES will then reimburse us 75% of the remaining 25%. And so that gets us the $9,000 and change. So in the end, and it'll take a little bit of a time, but in the end, our city matches only 25% of the remaining 25%, so that's $3,000 and change.
Wow. Good job.
So just wanted to share that with you, that's the process, that's the kind of process we will be going through, but hopefully with these kind of numbers. And that kind of relates back to when we came back to you previously and we would, without the declaration and the kind of numbers that we were concerned about, we'll be able to update you at a subsequent meeting with respect to where we think that that's heading with those kind of numbers. And Gabriella Mitre, who's our risk analyst, and in our next presentation, she's been involved heavily, she and London Pyle, with respect to our insurance claims. Any questions?
Well, that's my question. Any questions? Y'all good? Well, thank you so much for your presentation and for reducing that amount. We should all have a party or something.
It's a collaboration, and it's hallelujah for the declaration.
Will you tell everybody that we said thank you? And thank you once again. Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on this item?
I did not receive any request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. I see none.
And we're ready for a motion?
There's a motion by Councilmember Gregory and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Ross. Motion carries, all ayes.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you.
So item D is an update on emergency actions related to Tropical Storm Hillary. And I believe City Manager will be taking that himself.
I will, thank you. And I just have a brief update for you, primarily on what we have submitted to FEMA and Cal OES, and some of it goes through Federal Highway because of our major streets so it's a number of different sources, but this is our total submission. We have also submitted everything through Congressman Ruiz's office so that they're aware and can provide assistance should we need it. On debris removal, which covered the initial removal of the streets and then the haul off of the debris, we submitted a total of $9.3 million. I'm rounding off these numbers for you. That's category A. Emergency protective measures, this had to do with the cost of road closures and soil stabilizer that is being applied. That was $92,500. Roads and bridges, this is the big one. This is the damage to our roads, both from the floods and the mud and from the effect of the heavy equipment being on them as we removed that. That's category C. We submitted $18.7 million in that category. Public buildings and equipment loss, that's the two pieces of equipment that you just saw. And then the final category, parks and recreation facilities, we did have some damage to the ball fields at Century Park because they're down there where it filled up with water and mud, and then we had some trees at Panorama Park that had to be replaced. We submitted $60,000 in that category. So the total is $28.3 million. It's still a long road to go to get that all processed through. There will be some debate probably and arguments and additional documentation needed in some cases, but that's what we've done to this point. The other thing I want to update you on is the removal of the dirt. And that is essentially done. I received word that the 12th, which is 2 days from now, all of the dirt removal should be completed. The final step then will be the application of the soil stabilizer, which is supposed to be done by the 19th of January. So we anticipate that a week from now, 10 days from now, that phase will be completed. So that...
If I could ask, when we approved that, it was an estimate, really, what the cost was going to be, with the caveat that it could go over, or do we have good news that it looks like...
It's going to be less, and I don't think we have a final tally on that, but I will get that to you when we have it, but it is going to be less than what the original contract was.
This is good.
And City Manager, I am not schooled in this, so please help me. Is FEMA generally, once they accept your numbers, they're 100%?
No, well, it's the formula that Kevin gave on the equipment. That applies for everything. The wrinkle in this is that a lot of our submission had to do with damage to our streets. And Vista Chino and Date Palm, at least, fall under a different category because they're on the FHWA registry. I don't know if that's the right word or not, which is handled through Caltrans and a little bit differently. But they went in with that submission, and they're included in the numbers that I gave you.
And on a hopeful day, you might expect 80%?
Well, if we got everything, it would be 75% of that 28 million through FEMA, and then 75% of the remaining 25% through Cal OES, and we would be left with the remainder. I think it's unlikely that we get 100% on all of that street work. They've already pointed out that, it's not like they were brand-new streets before the flood, and that's undeniably true. However, we can't do a project to take them back to where they were before. We have to do a project to take it back to a new street. And so there may be some arguing and discussion about that.
And I don't know about roads, but it's not unusual to have some form of a replacement cost. Your home's broken into and things are stolen. They say, well, how old was that toaster? So it's not unusual.
So we're gonna advocate to get the best reimbursement we can on those. That's our commitment.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Gutierrez, any
No.
addition? Then that completes that, and thank you so very much.
So let me ask, do we need to renew any of our previous declarations or allow them to expire? Or
I think we're to the point now that this other project is essentially completed that there's no value to us to have the declaration in place any longer.
All right, thank you.
And do we have any public comment on this, please?
We only have one member. Mr. Anderson, would you like to comment on this item?
Oh, no, I didn't, sorry.
No, it's okay. We have none.
You're our only public comment, so. Thanks so much. And I'm sorry, I need to look at this. I didn't think we even needed to do any voting on this.
No, that one does not
doesn't.
require any action.
So, and we've covered that. I mean, we're just to the end here, aren't we? We have the risk management, but on the end of our agenda. On the end of our agenda. So we will take that on now with the risk management.
Thank you, and Kevin Biersack will present this item. This is much like the update that you saw a few meetings ago. We're really working hard in finance, and I appreciate the things that Kevin has done since he's taken over to sort of reshuffle the deck in staff and be able to professionalize some of our functions. We talked about what we're going to do in procurement, and now we are undertaking to do the same type of thing in our risk management program. We've never before had a position that we could dedicate to this, and I think in the long run, this will end up saving us money in our insurance and things. But Kevin's going to give you an overview of where we're headed.
Well, thank you, Charlie, and thank you for those comments. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff, risk management plan, study session, which is now part of the evening. As we go through typical questions, there's a lot here, but it is an overview, it is an architecture. And as I pointed out, Gabriella, who is now with us, she is our risk management analyst. She's kind of dual-hatted because she was previously our payroll specialist, and we're in the process of recruiting for that. So she's a busy person. So with the risk management plan, we've kind of come up with, like I said, an architecture, an infrastructure and an overview. So what you see on these first two slides is we have 13 different categories of our plan. And you'll see that here are the first 7 items, and then the next 6 items. And then some of these items, the meatier ones, we have flushed out, and you've seen that in the staff report, but I'd like to take you through that with some of our ideas. We didn't do it in a vacuum. We've also evaluated and looked at and gone out and done some Google searches, and we've come up with some cities in the state of California, and as well our Government Finance Officers Association and some of their ideas. And so we've looked at some of that, not in tremendous detail, but at least from an architecture standpoint so that we could incorporate, and then we plan on diving into that more as time permits. And we do have some goals at the end with respect to timeline so that you'll be able to see. So let's talk first about contracts and insurance. So here at the city, we have a primary contract system, and that's Laserfish. However, from a risk management standpoint, and we've actually been doing this, but not religiously, for lack of a better term, is ensuring that each one of our contracts has the appropriate insurance requirements. So that's where this comes into play. So we do have, from a professional services standpoint, we had a template that was provided by our city attorney 6 years ago, and we're now like on the 3rd generation of what that looks like. And so we utilize that, and one of the appendices in that does tie back to insurance requirements. Likewise, when we go out with a request for proposal, like we are right now in finance, we issued an RFP this past Friday for audit services because it's time for us to go out and do our due diligence with the audit firms. And we have insurance requirements with that type of thing. So it's making sure that we include that in everything. But likewise, from a contract standpoint, making sure that we have the insurance appendix for every contract. And guess what? There's a lot of things, and we've talked about this before, from a purchasing standpoint, as Charlie mentioned. We don't have contracts on everything, and even on some of the contracts that we have, they're outdated. So we're going to fix that from a purchasing standpoint. But then it will be a collaboration between Gabriella and risk management and our purchasing analyst when we fill that position in ensuring that we have an appropriate Mutt and Jeff routine, that we're working together. So, and then tied to insurance, we also want to make sure, do we have the right kind of process? And we don't. We have hook and crook. So tied to that, whether there's an insurance claim and it's our fault from a vehicle standpoint, or what are the steps to follow, versus if it's not our fault, what are the steps to follow? And we're through the types of accidents that we've seen and that type of thing over these past months. We're developing what we believe those processes are. There were some processes out there before, but we're going to formalize that as part of the plan. And then God and everybody, as they say, will be able to see what it is all about. So we talk about insurance, the types of insurance, that type of thing. So this past year, as you all are aware, because we came to you in November with respect to one of our budget adjustments, our primary budget adjustment was an increase in budget to cover our insurance costs because we had budgeted $4.7 million overall with insurance, and this year it came in at 5.5. And we know next year it's probably not going to go down. But we have already had we've had two different discussions tied to, with PERMA as an insurance provider and also Alliant, who is also our insurance provider, because we have, as this chart says, two different insurance providers. What do things look like this next year? Are we looking at some of the same type of increases, anywhere from 5 to 34%? And the indication so far, fingers crossed, is that it doesn't look like it's going to be quite like that. So, but we definitely know that if we made it up to 5.5 this year, we'll probably be a little bit higher next year, but hopefully not the same amount or the same percentage higher. But as a recap, because we've talked about this previously, but only within the last 6 months, we have two types of insurance broken up. We have through PERMA, we have what's called PRISM, and that's the Public Risk Innovation Solutions and Management Program. And these are the four types of insurance that we get through PERMA. Separate, dating way back before the creation of this earth probably, we have APIP, Alliant Property Insurance Coverage. And we've been with Alliant forever. And these are the 5 types. And as part of one of our goals, and you'll see later on it was part of the staff report, we're actually doing an initial valuation this year because we're going to see, are there things that we might be able to move from the bottom up to the top? We don't believe that there's anything that we would move from PRISM down to the bottom, but there might be a few items that based on pricing, we may be able to move those up to the top. Let's talk a little bit about facility inspection. We had a facilities master plan. One of the things that we owe you is to brief you in a study session on the outcome of that facilities master plan. It was delivered right before our wonderful tropical storm came, so it's been kind of put on the back burner. But we're doing some evaluation with respect to that facilities master plan, and if you remember from a budget deferment standpoint, we talked about that one of the things we were deferring is the facilities master plan phase 2, which was the policies and procedures. But we're at least evaluating the existing facilities condition assessment that was delivered so that we can determine what can we do with our current staffing and cherry pick that versus what can we do, number 2, with respect to the smaller items that we could potentially use through our cadre, through our pool of current vendors, and then what are the big ticket items that we need to plan for, because it is a 10-year plan with respect to that facilities condition assessment for the 18 facilities. So I give you that background because here when we talk about facilities inspection, Gabriella will be able to go and engage Sedgwick to be able to actually come out and, separate from an assessment of the facility, tie back to what are some of the risks that might exist with respect to the facility. And so we plan on leveraging Sedgwick for that. Policy and procedures. And likewise, we have some legs on this because over the past few years on the finance side of our department, we've been updating and developing our policy and procedures from 2009. Because the only thing that we've done over these years is we've been doing, as an individual one updates, we just update that individual section. But we're doing a complete overhaul. We're now on an ERP. We use Tyler Munis, and we very much use it, and it's pieces from a financial standpoint. So we have gone through, one of our staff members, Rick, has actually gone through and taken all the existing policies and procedures, and we're actually going to be completed with that by the end of June. Likewise, we want to develop, tied to our risk management plan, what are our risk policies and what are the procedures, the processes. And here's a few of the initial ideas that we have on what some of those policies and procedures will be. We do have a COVID prevention plan, but it's a couple years old. And look at what's gone on with COVID. It didn't go away, and every year we have a new variant, for lack of a better term. Our injury and illness prevention plan, Cal OSHA has a plan, we don't have one. We need one. We can't just rely on pulling from their website what they have. So those are just some of the ideas and some of the things that we have. We'll collaborate citywide. Sometimes we tie back to, just City Hall, but in the risk management plan, we're going to leverage what the police department has done. We're going to leverage what the fire department has done. They may have subsections or whatever. We'll incorporate, and it will be a citywide plan. Risk assessments. We've actually done 6 initial risk assessments with these different departments already. And it's fantastic. Once again, we're utilizing permanent partner Sedgwick. And these are Zoom meetings. We go through the checklist. We identify strengths. We identify weaknesses. And we get action items out of that. And Gabriella has been spearheading those. With respect to that, there will be follow-on actions that we will be following up. We just had our facilities one this morning. Safety incident management. And we're going to talk about software tools, we want to be able to capture what the incidents are, what collisions are, what injuries are, and be able to use, whether it is in the case management module or whatever within Tyler Munis, we want to be able to capture these types of things so that we have a history of it to build on. Because right now we have paper at best. Sometimes we have soft copies, but they're not tremendously organized. Brings me to the software tools. So here are different examples of pieces of Tyler Munis that we have that we've actually, in our collaboration with Human Resources, the driver's license module, that has recently been updated for all of our employees that do drive city vehicles with all the appropriate information. But separate from that, utilizing the case management module, there's a claims module, utilizing the talent management for the history of employees' certifications or training, and load that that's all in manual files today, or if anything comes from the police department or the fire department that we can incorporate. But then on a go-forward basis, through our employee self-service module, people will be able to actually give us their new certifications or give us their new training courses that they've passed or whatever, or attended, and submit that through our ERP, through the employee self-service module. So training, let's talk about training. Once again, different resources, PRISM that we talked about, we will be able to leverage them. HR already leverages Vector Solutions, or the old Target Solutions was the branding for the ethics training. You all do ethics every 2 years, because guess what? Those certificates that you do every 2 years, every May, we have to give those to the auditors to say that the 5 of you and Greg Jackson have done your ethics training. I don't know why they don't care about us, but they care about the 6 of you. So we already use Target Solutions through HR, but there's other types of opportunities through Target Solutions. Cedric, we've talked about that. Employment practices through IRMA. There's training opportunities through IRMA, potentially industry conferences. For the first time, we have a staff member going to a risk management conference in February, and that's Gabriella, and it's here in Indian Wells. Why not? It's local. Let's do it. This is part of us having a proactive risk management plan rather than just have a reactive, if something happens, we're going to take care of it type thing. Also, from a Cal OSHA standpoint, not only the IIPP that we talked about on the previous slide, but to be able to leverage whether it's state opportunities that are available, state training opportunities that are available through Cal OSHA, or Cal OSHA opportunities available through PERMA. And then obviously department on-the-job training, but we should be able to capture that kind of training that's appropriate within and be able to have that history of our employees. Our employees are our greatest asset that we have. So let's invest in that and make sure that we give it the due respect. Training, we've already scheduled 4 training sessions this year, and this is only January. And they're listed here, and you can see the departments that we have lined up for this type of training. And other departments may be added. And a new one on PPE just came in this week that Gabrielle is already tying back to and getting people lined up. They don't know that yet, but they're getting lined up. Let's talk about workplace safety. Part of the vision is to have 2 committees. Those committees will meet quarterly. So the concept will be we'll have one that will meet at the end of the quarter or the beginning of the quarter, and then another one that will meet mid-quarter. And those committees will tie back to risk versus safety. Now, and if you notice, with respect to the way that they're listed here, from a risk standpoint, we kind of view that more externally, but also internally, from a primary versus a secondary. With respect to being able to tie back to what's going out there within our city boundaries, risks that we know, trips and falls. I mean, a good one, you know, I can't really walk and talk and chew gum at the same time, but Monday night I walked over to the Mary Pickford to see a film after work. You get out there and all of a sudden there's all this water and everything, and this concrete is kind of slippery when it's wet. Well, you know what? I didn't want to fall on my derriere. So I made sure I didn't go up on that, but that's the kind of thing that we need to be on the lookout. So what did I do? I texted Daddy and said, you got to look at this in the morning. We got to check this puppy out. What's going on? And then the contra to that is the safety committee. And so we look at the safety committee internally primarily, but then also externally, outside the city government offices. But in order to ensure that we have a safe working place. And so that we can mitigate. When Charlie did the introduction, he tied back to, you all are making an investment in a risk management plan, but we certainly expect that it will more than pay for itself before it's all said and done. If it doesn't, then I'm at will. Just say adios, Kevin. So committee membership, so Gabriella, after this presentation to you tomorrow or Tuesday because of the holiday, we'll be going out, we will be looking for representatives from the departments, not warm bodies, but real representatives, whether they're from at the department level or the division level, to participate in these committees because we want to have a fresh start. And then we'll have other people that will be able to be trained that can come onto these committees at a later date. But we definitely want to be able to make that investment and get off on the right foot. So let's talk a little bit about dates and some of our immediate plans. The committee meetings, we anticipate starting that by mid-February. And like I said, every 45 days, and we will rotate, and those will be quarterly. Talked a little bit about cherry picking some of it. We've already had a couple of discussions, but we'll have more with respect to our insurance, whether it's through Alliant, through the APIP program, or through PERMA, with respect to doing some comparisons and tie back to, do we need to move some of our insurance coverage around? And then the software tools, what we had on the software tools, yes, we started with the driver's license. That was kind of a small one, but we at least wanted to see if that would work. And HR took the lead on that, and that was fantastic. And we want to be able to work in not our production environment, but our test environment on the case management and the claims and see if we can effectively utilize the software. There really isn't an impact per se, but with the caveat, when you approve the budget that you approved, we have been able to take a vacant position, which was the position that I previously encumbered before moving into the director position, and we've been able to utilize that in order to be able to have a risk management person. With an existing vacancy that we had, we've done some internal administrative shuffling. That's how we're going to get a purchasing analyst or whatever out of it, so that we didn't have to come back to the well and ask you as our governing body for another budget impact for a purchasing person. So that is ongoing as well. So there isn't a cost impact per se. In the future, there will be, because we've done that in this 2 years, but in the future, we're going to have to line up everything and make sure that it has all worked, and we'll see how it ties back to in the future. So in the end, compliments of our city manager, an active, effective risk management program should result in cost reductions over time.
So those services that you're going to use now, like Sedgwick, that you haven't really used before, are those already covered by your insurance?
Yes, sir, no cost impact.
Okay, and the training, the training's been made available.
They have been underutilized services, and we are going to leverage them. And we really don't really have a complete picture of what all of those are, because we're in the learning mode. But we're going to get there.
Any
As
questions, Councilmember?
Councilmember Lamb says, it's all about education, and we're getting educated.
Any questions?
Well, Kevin, great presentation. My question is, do you have an estimate at all, roughly, how much money will the city save once this program gets implemented in a year from now? Not implemented, but starts to work in a year or two from now?
So here's my mind's eye. Of course, this hasn't even, they're looking at me going, we haven't even talked about this, so, you know. But in my mind's eye, let's say when in this next budget cycle, because of the shuffling that we've done with the vacancies, because you all know I'm an old man. One of these days I'm going to be gone, so we're going to have to recruit for me, and we're probably going to have to recruit for someone to backfill the position that has been vacant. So when we tie back to that, let's say we need to add a body to the Financial Services Department. Call it $125,000 as a rough order of magnitude with respect to salary and benefits, if that's what you look at for a non-sworn kind of person, maybe 150. We should be able to double that in recouped savings once we really know what we're doing. Because look at the lawsuits that we have. If you can compare tied to lawsuits that have happened in the past, if we have an educated, not just the people in this room, but an educated community of staff of 200 people that think about things. I mean, Councilmember Gutierrez, you tie back to, you're such a code advocate, and you tie back to, you know, when we as employees, when we're out driving around or whatever, stop and do this kind of thing with respect to take a picture. It's the same type of mindset. It's educating people, training people so that they can think before they act and think about this kind of risk. But also, like from a risk management standpoint, if we can go around, Eddie, in surveying what was going on getting ready for the film festival, he walked around all of our property around here and he came up with and he has it as a work order and he's put in the system with respect to all the items that it will potentially need new concrete, but he's going to get one of his vendors in here and he's going to get it sanded, I call it sanded down, grinded down or whatever it is, to take care of those potential trips and falls. That's the kind of thing we need to think about.
That's why I snickered a little bit, because it's possible what I've seen before when you don't have an active risk management program and you actually start one, that initially it looks like, oh no, identified all these things that need to be fixed. Some of them are processes and aren't that expensive, but you may run across some actual physical things that need to be fixed. And so initially, it may look like it's costing you some money, but I think anybody with any long-term sense would know, well, we need to fix those because there are potential safety issues if we're catching them as part of the safety review.
And tied to that, Councilmember Gregory, with respect to those kind of items, we have a certain amount that we include from a budget standpoint for those kinds of fixes or repairs. But if it were insurmountable, we would be in a position that I would come in lobby management to be able to come back to you all to say, we need a budget adjustment because we're going to need to spend this money now so that we can save on the potential risk.
And yeah, that was the point, that, right, exactly, that it would recreate a safer environment for the employees and the public, and in the long term, you would expect that.
The Fountain of Life is a perfect example of that.
Correct. And so here's a good one. Eddie's meeting tomorrow morning with a vendor with respect to the vault. It's a hot mess. I'll just tell you that right now. And it's not even safe to climb down in there. We're going to gut it. Based on what you all approved, it's all coming out. And we're going to, when I say start over, the infrastructure to get the lines and everything are fine on what goes over to the fountain, but that vault is not safe. And so he's meeting with a vendor tomorrow morning. He's already been here once. Hallelujah, we got a vendor to come back for a second visit. Sometimes that doesn't happen in these post-COVID days. And so we're going to see what he's come up with respect to that, because that is an ugly mess.
Any additional questions? City Clerk, are there any questions?
I have
from
no
our
request to speak.
fine
If you would
audience?
like to speak on this item, raise your hand. And I see none.
And I'm not going to bring it back to you because we didn't even have a question for you to get on. And so, guess what we are? We are done. And we thank you so much for your presentation. And when you start saving money, just, take us to lunch or something.
We'll sign you up.
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the staff who